Hello everyone, and welcome to Powerhouse, your new favorite place for anime and other media web content. Starting with what is arguably the quintessential shonen series, Dragon Ball Z. I'm your host, Sophie B, and for the channel's debut episode, I am very pleased to present to you the first installment of a series I like to call Dragon Ball AU, or Dragon Ball Alternate Universe, wherein we take the time to contemplate some what-ifs that significantly alter the timeline of the Dragon Ball world. For our first excursion into the domain of alternate universes, I posit to you this question. What if Krillin had a power-up? Or, more accurately, I suppose, what if Krillin had a transformation? Now, I know what you're thinking. Sophie, you degenerate. You can't just hand out power-ups willy-nilly. You're breaking the established lore. Humans don't have transformations. Without Zenkai boosts, or Super Saiyan, or artificial enhancements, the humans are gonna plateau. They just won't be relevant after the Frieza saga. Hell, they aren't even all that relevant after the Saiyan saga. Well, let me stop you there. I'm not saying we need to go around changing up human genetics. In fact, I'm not even saying we have to give the humans new techniques. This isn't something that has to be solved with some extreme measure, like using the Dragon Balls to wish for Saiyan genes, or the ability to Zenkai boost. Indeed, we can achieve something greater for humanity within the scope of canon, even in the immediate aftermath of the Saiyan saga, without having to rely on something like that at all. You see, the primary Dragon Ball canon has never really acknowledged what a lot of its periphery media has always taken as kind of a given. Humans should learn the Kaioken. Not even so much that they could be able to learn it, but that they outright should. It's a very early and straightforward DBZ power boost, and it could have helped a lot throughout the story, from the Tournament of Power arc in Super, all the way back to Namek. Unfortunately, the Kaioken's power comes with a cost, and said cost is largely why the technique got dropped after the Frieza saga. Well, that and its incompatibility with the original Super Saiyan transformations. Kaioken's flaw is that it increases ki output without increasing the body's ability to handle said output. So unless you're a Saiyan like Goku, anyone that tries to use the technique is gonna wind up hospitalized, and without the benefit of a Zenkai boost to boot. Not much of a power-up, right? Well, my friends, we might just be able to mitigate that, and for the solution, we look to the original master himself, Roshi. Let us travel back to after Goku and Vegeta's grand battle in the Wasteland. The Prince of all Saiyans has fled into space, and while the heroes may be victorious, they paid a heavy price. Yamcha, Chaozu, Tenshinhan, Piccolo, Kami, the Dragon Balls themselves, all are gone. In addition to this, it will be some time before the remaining Z fighters recover from the aftermath of the fight. There will be no senzu beans for a long while yet. Our heroes are wounded, and they are without any means of undoing the damage caused by the Saiyan rampage. They are given a sliver of hope in the form of Mr. Popo, who tells them of Kami's spacecraft which can take them to his homeworld of Namek once repaired. It is in these moments where the path diverges. When Master Roshi travels with Bulma and the others to visit the Z-Fighters in hospital before the arrival of Popo, he remarks upon the damage Goku has sustained in his protection of Earth. Goku explains that Vegeta isn't even responsible for the bulk of it. Yeah, it was a great fight. Too bad that the Kaioken tears me up so bad, though. The doctors say I'm not going to be able to train for weeks! Curious about the side effect of the technique, Roshi asks Goku to explain the specifics, which the Saiyan does. Intrigued, Roshi ruminates on the nature of the Kaioken for a while, pondering it even as Popo arrives to take Bulma to Kami's spacecraft. Later, when the course of action they all must take becomes clear, the ancient turtle hermit has a sobering realization. The only fighters remaining for the trip to Namek are woefully underpowered and unprepared, particularly if the Namekian people are anything like Piccolo and Kami. That's to say nothing of the possibility that threats like Vegeta may very well be commonplace in outer space, and Roshi doubts they've seen the last of the Prince of all Saiyans. But what can be done? He considers for a long while. If Krillin and Gohan, and Goku after he recovers, travel to Namek only to fail, then Earth will have lost all of its champions, while simultaneously revealing itself as a target to the likes of alien tyrants like the Saiyans. It took everything Goku had, and then some, to defend Earth in the last battle. And their plan is to send off Krillin and Gohan? No, something more must be done. They need some kind of trump card. Suddenly, it dawns on him. Roshi returns to the hospital, where he greets Goku with a single question. Would King Kai be willing to speak with me? King Kai responds to Roshi's question personally, via telepathy. King Kai speaking, what's up? Roshi speaks of his ruminations on Kaioken, and begins to explain about a special technique he invented long ago. Full power. You know guys, muscle form. Buff Roshi. The technique was designed to counter the powerful effects of increased ki on his aging body. While the current iteration only lasts a few minutes at best, he believes that not only could it be improved, but with a deeper knowledge of the Kaioken, the two skills could synergize into something incredible. Should it prove possible, the voyage to Namek will have a much higher chance of success. King Kai agrees. Over the course of the next week, Roshi and King Kai communicate with one another, sharing insight. Roshi's power level may be low compared to those of his former pupils, but he is still the greatest martial arts mind on the planet, with over 300 years of experience. We know this for a fact, because even in Dragon Ball Super, Goku and Krillin are still learning things from Master Roshi, even with him being woefully underpowered. He receives a crash course in the workings of the Kaioken, while giving King Kai a crash course on the workings of the full power transformation. After 7 days of dialogue with King Kai, Roshi comes to understand everything about the theory of Kaioken, even if he's unable to put it to practical use, much like King Kai himself. Before they depart one another's mental company, the Kai gifts Roshi with one other very special piece of insight. For this plan to work, he must ask the caretaker of Kami's lookout about the special room. In the meantime, King Kai promises that the deceased Z-Fighters, now traveling on Snake Way, will receive the most thorough training he can offer them once they arrive. With 3 days remaining until the completion of the refit for Kami's spacecraft, Roshi travels to Capsule Corp. There, he meets with Popo, who has been instructing Bulma in the basics of the Namekian language. He asks him about the secret room, and Popo explains. The hyperbolic time chamber. Its ability to stretch a day into a year is an incredible boon, but it is also a dangerous place. The mental fatigue is not for the weak-willed or weak-minded, and the physical strain on the body is immense, equivalent to 10 times that of standard Earth gravity. Furthermore, only 2 can enter the chamber at a time. Kami refused to use it when training the Z-Fighters in preparation for the Saiyans. But, if King Kai has made a judgment in favor of Roshi's plan, Popo will defer to him and open the door. Roshi hesitates. It'll need to be him and one other. There are only 2 options available, his former pupil, Krillin, and the 5-year-old Gohan. The choice is simple. He won't risk Chi-Chi's wrath. Krillin will accompany him into the chamber. And so, Krillin once again becomes a student of the Turtle Hermit. The first 6 months are the most grueling. Harsh training in 10 times gravity, while Roshi drills the principles of the Kaioken into Krillin's mind and body, and simultaneously works to further develop the usability of the full power technique. The time limit needs improvement. The bulky muscle mass will need to be condensed to not hinder mobility, and it'll need to be ready by the time Krillin achieves his first breakthrough with the Kaioken. At the end of those first 6 months, the breakthrough finally comes. Now, before you say anything regarding Goku needing a year to learn Kaioken and the Spirit Bomb, please remember that Goku spent some time on Snake Way before ever reaching King Kai's planet. And he was explicitly not taught anything technical until after catching Bubbles and striking Gregory. Between Goku's natural talent that allowed him to learn the Kamehameha in minutes, literal minutes, and the understanding that a large portion of his training time had nothing to do with learning the Kaioken or Spirit Bomb, we can very safely assume that he likely worked out the techniques over the course of only a few months each, possibly even less than that. By comparison, a 6-month learning curve for Krillin seems very fair, especially since Krillin and Goku were once framed in the narrative as standing close enough to equal ground in martial arts potential. For OG Dragon Ball at least, and before the reveal that Goku was a superpowered alien baby. So, upon achieving a practical understanding of the Kaioken, it's now time for Krillin to move on to the next step, mastering the full power transformation. It's difficult work, and the nature of the technique is unlike anything else he has ever learned. With only a couple of weeks left, Krillin finally manages to perfect the technique. There's no time to lose. In the remaining time before the door opens, the Turtle Hermit and his student experiment with combining Kaioken and full power. In the end, the experiment is a resounding success. The transformation is subtle, yet remarkable. A clear, yet not too bulky increase in muscle mass, the fiery red aura of the Kaioken, and even a marginal increase in height, all add up to turn Krillin into a somewhat more intimidating figure than he's ever been before. They christen the new technique Kaiohenshin, meaning transformation of the King of the Worlds. The transformation manages to achieve a stable power of roughly 1.5 times base power level, without the damaging drawbacks of standard Kaioken, and with nearly an hour of transformation time. Roshi proudly posits that, given ki output can temporarily increase by double to nearly quadruple naturally when using techniques like the Kamehameha or the Special Beam Cannon, a calculation we know thanks to Raditz's scouter readings of Goku and Piccolo, and given that full power was designed for just such an increased output, achieving a safe and stable 2 times, 3 times, or even 4 times output, such as Goku displayed in his battle with Vegeta, should be feasible very soon. Unfortunately, any such output would have an exponentially diminished time limit with each increase in power level. There will be more time to meditate upon the nature of the hybrid technique on the trip to Namek, and with years and years of life ahead of him, hopefully, Krillin may very well be able to achieve even greater power multipliers in the future. For the present, Roshi tells Krillin to be proud of the other gains he made during their training. The Time Chamber has 10 times Earth's gravity, which just so happens to be the same level of gravity as King Kai's planet. We know that Goku entered intense training there. We also know that, thanks to Raditz and Vegeta's scouter readings, Goku's power level increased by nearly 20 times in only 1 year, from 416 to over 8,000! Of course, even disregarding a possible Zenkai boost, is the jury still out on if you receive one when you actually die? We know that Krillin won't have made the same gains. We can make a few calculations, though. His growth from 1 year of training on the Lookout was still pretty large, jumping from 206 up to 1770. That's an 8.5 times increase, despite training in normal gravity. Considering that information, if we round up Krillin's base power level to a nice, even 1800 after Vegeta's defeat, and account for the benefit of training for 1 year in 10 times gravity, it isn't far-fetched to believe that Krillin's strength could easily increase by as much as 10 times. Only half the growth of Goku on King Kai's planet, yet enough to put Krillin squarely at 18,000, the very same as Vegeta when the Saiyans arrived on Earth. His training complete, and with only a couple of days left before the team blasts off, Krillin takes a well-deserved rest. 34 days after launching from Earth, the team lands on Namek. Krillin has spent the journey meditating on the nature of the Kaiohenshin, while also participating in mild physical training and extensive image training with Gohan, bringing the boy's power to a bit more than it was in canon. After all, the stronger your sparring partner, the better your gains, even if the sparring is basically only physical torture on your part, right? That was the message behind Resurrection F, right? Anyway, instead of being roughly around an unsuppressed 6,000, Gohan's now closer to about an unsuppressed 9,000. As in the canon, Vegeta and Kui land on Namek very shortly after our protagonists, followed by the assault on Dende's village by the Frieza forces. However, even with the two of them stronger than their original counterparts by this point, Gohan and Krillin aren't gonna want to start a dust-up. Not only do Zarbon and Dodoria still have larger base power levels, their boss's power level is beyond the pale. Even with Kaiohenshin, it wouldn't just be a losing battle, it would be a joke. There's no reason for Krillin to play his trump card this early, so when the soldiers are distracted, they save Dende and escape. After this, a series of rapid-fire events in much the same form as canon occur. Dodoria chases Krillin and Gohan, only to be intercepted and killed by Vegeta. After dealing with Dodoria, the Prince of All Saiyans sets his sights on a Namekian village. Krillin and Gohan, meanwhile, are remarking at the bad luck of Vegeta having come to Namek at all. Except this Krillin isn't frightened at the prospect. Not at all. You see, Krillin knows letting Vegeta escape back on Earth was a mistake, and now the Saiyan Prince is after the Namekian Dragon Balls. Well, he isn't gonna let that monster have them. For the moment, however, their focus has to be on getting young Dende to safety, and gathering the uncollected Dragon Balls before this Frieza guy's soldiers do. But Krillin is keeping his senses aware of Vegeta, which turns out to be fortuitous for a certain clan of Namekians. As Krillin and Gohan return to Bulma with Dende for a short respite before leaving to meet the Namekian elder, Guru, Krillin senses Vegeta heading toward another energy source, one that feels similar to the village that Frieza's men were pillaging. Oh no, he doesn't. It's time to take his special move for a test ride. Krillin instructs Gohan to take Dende to Guru. "I'll join you when I'm done taking out yesterday's trash." Krillin pulls out all the stops and arrives just in the nick of time. Before Vegeta can incinerate the kindly village, he senses a notable power level moving toward him. No matter, it may be higher than the average Namekian, but it seems middling for a Frieza enforcer.
"If I'm lucky, one of those pathetic aliens wounded Zarbon, and I'll have the pleasure of finishing the job."
Instead, who should land in front of him but one of the Earthlings, glaring at him with disdain. How did this human, one of the weaker ones he recalls, end up on Namek? Bah, what does it matter? He'll die as easily as these slug people, even if he appears to be stronger than he was on Earth. His thoughts turn uncertain, however, as Krillin begins to power up. Kaio Henshin! With a roar, Krillin transforms, and Vegeta is dumbfounded by the sudden leap in power. This energy, it's the same as what he felt from Kakarot back on Earth. But the Prince of All Saiyans will not be cowed. The two men face each other and take up their fighting stances. How much will Krillin be able to accomplish within the limitations of his new power? And how much will this battle, and those to come, be affected by the actions of King Kai and Master Roshi? What do these machinations entail for the deceased Z-Fighters in Otherworld? Find out next time on Dragon Ball AU. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe. Consider visiting my Patreon at patreon.com/SophieB_Powerhouse, and feel free to share your own thoughts on the video in the comments below. See you next time!